What's up, everybody? Let's Talk Jets Radio. What a friggin' day. Thank you again to everybody that called in tonight to our show, and apologies to those that we couldn't get on. Just 2 hours nonstop chaos, especially with the news breaking that the Jets just straight up released Le'Veon Bell. Didn't even trade him, no compensation coming back to the Jets, just straight up released him. Supposedly, I guess they couldn't find any teams that were willing to give up any kind of compensation and also take on the potential injury risk if he gets hurt. $8 million guaranteed for next year. But dude, this is so depressing, upsetting, nauseating, whatever word you want to use. I really can't think of a time that's been more depressing than this as a Jet fan. In the back of my mind, I like to think, maybe it was what was necessary, as far as bottoming out to, really get things turned around the right way. But you're talking about young players, talented players that this coach, this regime have not been able to get anything out of, and we continue one by one to ship them out the door, just as it happened in Miami under Adam Gase, where, how many guys, we talk about it every single week, we don't need to go down the list every single time, but Ryan Tannehill, Jarvis Landry, Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker, Kenyon Drake, Damian Williams, the number of guys that he had with some of those Miami teams. And you want to talk about guys that stayed there and their careers kind of took off once he left, or guys that he shipped out because they didn't buy into the Adam Gase way or whatever the hell, his philosophy is on offense that they saw right through and they just didn't want to be a part of it. And, they were viewed as the cancers, as we've called Jamal Adams and now Le'Veon Bell. No, Adam Gase is the problem. These problems have followed him here from Miami, whether it's the injuries, the play calling, the scheme, the inability to relate to any of your players or even develop any of your younger players, or not one player has progressed this year, offense or defense. All right, so that's on Greg Williams too, but not one player is progressing. Your system isn't elevating anybody. Your young quarterback is going backwards. Even guys that we were hopeful for on both sides of the ball, Chris Herndon, Nathan Shepard, Kyle Phillips, Jordan Jenkins, Brian Poole, guys that played well last year, they've been invisible. And guys that you shipped out, Robbie Anderson, having a breakout year. Jamal Adams, undefeated with Seattle. I know he's been hurt the last 2 weeks, but he was playing phenomenal before he got hurt. Kelvin Beachum, part of a winning team on an offensive line with the Cardinals. Brandon Shell with Seattle as well. It seems like everybody that leaves here, they have no problem going somewhere else and being a part of a winner. Meanwhile, the replacements that we bring in, we're talking about getting rid of these guys again next year. So what foundational pieces has Joe Douglas brought into this point? What has he done? Mekhi Becton, okay, great. We haven't seen Mims. I'll hold off on an evaluation for that pick because I did like the pick. I do like the player. I'd like to see what he can do if he gets healthy, but he still has to get healthy. And again, that just highlights one wide receiver in the draft, right? One wide receiver. Meanwhile, you've got about 10 guys that were picked in the first 3 rounds that are, just taking the league by storm this year. And that was our biggest need, and you got one guy. So again, trying to figure out what Joe Douglas's role in all this is, because the fact that you had the issue with Le'Veon Bell liking things on social media, and then the reports come out the next day that the Jets are shopping him, and then hours later he's released. You didn't even get anything back. You didn't even try to wait a couple weeks, build up his value, get something in return. We're talking about an offense that's completely decimated, no playmakers at all. Right? The main discussion we've had over the last few weeks, aside from firing Gase, is about evaluating your quarterback, evaluating Sam Darnold, giving him a legitimate chance to succeed. Right? I'd like to see him, here with the Jets for a couple more years, but I understand if you're picking first overall, taking Trevor Lawrence is going to be tempting if you don't see something from Sam. So to not give him, whether he comes back this week or the following week, to not give him 9, 10 games with a full supporting cast, and again, Adam Gase should be gone too, right? Put a different voice in his ear. But to continue to take pieces away from this kid, Sam Darnold deserves so much better than this bullshit. He does. He deserves so much better, which is why I'm happy for Le'Veon Bell. I'm happy that he's going to be a free agent as of 4 p.m. tomorrow. He'll be able to pick his new destination. He'll probably play for a winner. He'll probably rush for 1,000 yards over the last 9, 10 games of the year, because that's just what happens. Guys leave Adam Gase and their careers take off because he cannot elevate anybody. His system, his play calling, it's outdated. It's just facts. Look at the double-digit losses. They're not competitive. He has more double-digit losses than he has career wins. The Jets are not competitive. He can't adjust. He can't adapt if things aren't perfect. Right? Other teams adjust, right? He talks all the time about, well, the defense had the safeties on Le'Veon Bell, so we couldn't throw the ball to him. So make an adjustment. He's one of the best receivers in football out of the backfield, and you've turned him into nothing. Like, that's what he did. A player that was on a Hall of Fame path, you turned him into nothing. And not just that, the part that drives me nuts, and we talked about this a little bit during the show, the part that drives me nuts, he had your back. When all this shit went down with Jamal Adams, he had your back. He was one of the few guys that was out in front of the media, still repping the Jets, excited about the year, trying to be optimistic, team guy. Everybody in that locker room loves him. You never hear a bad word about him. And, all the talk about the dissension between him and Gase last year, he was trying to put it to bed, fresh start, all of that. He was buying in. When nobody else was, he was trying to buy in and start fresh. And you would think the guy at the top, the head coach, he would have that same philosophy, knowing that he's probably on the hot seat, or maybe he's not, who the hell knows. But you would think the head coach would have that philosophy, right? That he would try to make it work with a talented player. Instead, nope, he would rather be right and ship Le'Veon Bell out than to make it work, than to give Sam a weapon out of the backfield. That sums up Adam Gase. And the fact that ownership can just sit back and watch this garbage, that's why I unfollowed the Jets today on Twitter. I did. I finally did it. And I agree with Tyson as far as just not buying anything. Why would you spend your money on this team? Let me tell you a story. I got my shirt over there. AFC East Championship shirt. I haven't been able to buy one since 2002. Why? Because they haven't won a division title since 2002. All right. It's going to be a 20-year stretch without a home playoff game. So think about all those season tickets, right? 10 games a year over 20 years. Do the math. Think about between the cost of tickets, the cost of parking, $40 a game. If you even dare to buy a beer, that's why we try to get drunk before the game. If you dare to buy a beer inside for $15, a water for $10, think about how much money. And then let's talk about the jerseys as well, right? Anybody who bought their Jets new uniforms, which, I think they made like $500 million off those last year. Everybody buying their uniforms, right? What if you bought a Jamal Adams? What if you bought a Le'Veon Bell? You got 21 games out of it. And what does the organization do for you? Do they reach out to you? Hey, you could bring that jersey and exchange it. We'll give you, a Sam, or, we'll give you a credit for next year. No, they don't give a shit. They treat it like a business. And guess what? That's probably why they don't care about starting over, because guess what? It's all new players. We'll hype these players up on our social media accounts, and you guys are all going to buy the jerseys. You guys are all going to buy in. That's what they think. And that's what needs to change, unfortunately, because they feed their information to all the PR guys. The PR guys slam Le'Veon Bell. Hours later, guess what? He's released. He's on the back page of the Post this morning. Bell needs to go, from Costello. Hours later, he's gone. They think they can do it because guess what? They get away with it. Fans got to speak up, because this shit should not be allowed. This shit should not happen. This is the most dysfunctional organization in professional sports, period. They are overtaking the Knicks. It's reaching that point. Think about, like I was saying before, all that money it's going to be 20 years without a division title, without a home playoff game. And not just the season tickets, the PSLs as well, right? They destroyed the home atmosphere. So not only do we have to watch bad football, we can't even go to a game and enjoy it anymore. We can't even sit there and enjoy a home atmosphere, a legitimate home crowd advantage. All right, obviously this year it's different, but even last year, almost every game they played last year, the road team had more fans in the building than the Jets did. Think about that. And think about what it would have been this year. Anybody in that building would have been going nuts, firing Gase chants all over the place. It would have been an embarrassment. They got saved by not having fans this year. But again, as a season ticket holder, we can't even go to games and enjoy it. We're outnumbered by the opposing fans. Going to a game isn't fun, aside from the tailgate. That's it. That's what this ownership has turned this organization into, from all of their decisions. And you know what? This entire situation starts by allowing Mike Maccagnan to spend money and go through a draft and then fire him. A decision that, go back to our shows from 2 years ago, we all said, what the hell? Whether you liked Maccagnan or you hated him, I was a Maccagnan supporter for a little bit, or for a while there actually. And even still, if you had any thoughts about firing him, you do it prior to free agency and the draft. You don't let him spend all this money, go through a draft, and then say peace, and let Adam Gase install his own guy. Because now it seems like Joe Douglas is the puppet. It seems like Adam Gase is all the power. All right, he can make trades, bring in Balaj from Miami, try to do that. He has an issue with Le'Veon Bell. He's cut the next day. Bringing in all these Gase guys, what's Joe Douglas doing? What has he really done here? At what point does he step up and say, you know what, if I'm going to be about culture, I can't continue to be buddy-buddy with you. I can't continue to align myself with you because you're a loser. Everybody in football sees it. You're a laughingstock. The Jets have become a laughingstock. I'm becoming a laughingstock, aligning myself with you. At what point does Joe Douglas wake up and see that? Everybody sees it, the head coach and the owner. And now people are starting to see it with you. People are starting to question Joe Douglas, rightfully so, because this offseason is a disaster, complete disaster, and the team is going backwards. And you're giving no indication that Adam Gase is even on the hot seat, right? You might not have the ability to fire him, but you could speak up. You could talk to ownership, right? GM, head coach, they each report separately to ownership. So you could speak up. You can create a stink in the media. You could say this shit is unacceptable. Do something. Speak up, dude. Like putting out a Twitter statement on the release of Le'Veon Bell in the best interest of both parties going forward. Dude, come on. Get out in front of this. At some point, until you do that, we're going to assume that you're either Adam Gase's puppet or you just don't know shit. So, sorry this rant went forever. This is just frustrating. It's embarrassing, but life is a Jet fan. So, talk to you guys later.